All right, welcome to Wednesday to Tuesday, the podcast for QSR operators who don't just show up on the weekends, they run the whole damn week. I'm Hunter Charneski.
I'm David Taylor.
I started as a late shift sandwich artist at one of his Subways, and under 2 years, I was overseeing 16 stores as a senior district manager. Now I'm transitioning to the Taco Bell brand and bringing everything I've learned about leadership, culture, self-sabotage, and turning chaos into performance. My host, as you said, David Taylor, is a true vet. He's got 37 years experience in QSR and hospitality, including decades with the Subway brand. He's led through trends, turnarounds, and tough markets, and he's still obsessed with getting the basics right. Together, we're bringing you real stories, blunt numbers, and field-proven leadership that actually works on the floor, not just in a spreadsheet. If you're serious about building teams, running lean, and leading from the front, you're in the right place. And hey, if you want to lead yourself with the same precision you use in store, then grab my book, The Way, Out of Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery. It's available at Amazon and huntercharneski.com. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, be our brand ambassador, if you will, and send this to someone who runs their business like it matters, because it does. So I want to talk about self-sabotage today as it relates to this industry, and I think you want to talk a little bit about leadership, and I have an idea that they're probably going to tie into one another.
Sure.
So why don't you kick us off? Leadership.
So I've been thinking a lot about leadership and what makes a good leader, because we all know the bad leader. We know the micromanager, we know the culture killer, we know the unexpected realities. And so I've been thinking a lot about what makes a good leader. How can I, as a franchisee, how can I, as a manager, identify good leadership in my team? So reading about it and that, I came across a list. I can't remember where. I wish I could give credit to it. Identifying you might not realize you're a good leader, and then I adapted that with some bullet points to it. And the first one to me is they're uncomfortable with the spotlight. It's they don't seek credit for themselves. If you say if you go to someone and say, "Wow, you did really good on that shift," or "You had a great quarter," they say, "We crushed it. My team and I did it." They don't say, "Yeah, I did. Yeah, this." They deflect that praise to the team. I've been thinking a lot about, as a Christian, how this pertains to Jesus. And it was Jesus and a team of 12 that took over the world. It's that team mentality, that focusing your spotlight on the team.
And even if you're not a Christian, you can still take the principles from it.
Yeah.
And apply them to business.
Most definitely.
And especially this business, because yesterday we had 448 transactions.
Wow.
There were 448 people that came through our doors or drive-through.
Right.
We had 448 interactions. Were they all meaningful? Was the team deployed? Were we making a little bit of an impact? And I think that's just kind of buttresses what you were saying just there in terms of the team and going through that.
So your team, you could not have yourself done 448 transactions.
No. And me being an early bird, I could not have done $800 by myself from midnight to 1 a.m.
Right. Yeah. You have to have that team. And if you crushed it, it wasn't Hunter who crushed it.
No.
It was Hunter and his team who crushed it. I think that, and that's we talked about this last week. You asked me, how do you identify who's going to be a good manager, who's going to be a good leader? And so that started my thought process on what are those traits that you can identify.
So they shun praise.
They shun praise.
Mm-hmm.
They're energized by other people's growth.
Well, something that's a euphemism for something that you've always said, which is my success is in my succession.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I always talk about succession plans. What are the succession plans? And by that I mean, I take great pleasure that Hunter went from crew member mm-hmm. to a senior district manager in less than 2 years. I mean, that to me is more exciting than almost anything. That this employee went from making sandwiches on a line mm-hmm. and now they're a lawyer. Mm-hmm. Or this employee, is now a small business owner.
Yep.
That energizes me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of a good leader. They light up, when a team member that they have coached steps up and rises up.
And that sort of is a little bit of a segue into what you and I were talking about very early this morning when I got off my shift. I was actually parked right behind the camera in the garage around 5:15 this morning. David and I were talking, and what he was alluding to there was, I think, a huge problem for particularly men in the industry who are failing to see the opportunity that's right in front of them, which is their job in QSR. You said that this person was a manager for me, now they're a lawyer. This person's was this for me, now they've started their own business. So Jim Collins talks about a concept in his book, Good to Great, that's the hedgehog. And what the hedgehog is something you're passionate about, something that's you have potential to be the best in the world at, and something that drives your economic engine. But more so than that, the job that you have right now, whether if it's a manager, a crew member, a district manager, whatever the case may be, if you do it right and you would deploy some of the leadership skills, then that can be your flywheel, which is the other concept that Collins talks about, where all of these other things start to build off of what you're doing in the QSR space. You can develop incredible leadership qualities in QSR. You can do as I did. I became a best-selling author not before I got into QSR, after I got into QSR. I became a professional athlete not before I got into QSR, after I got into QSR. And so the job that you're in right now in the industry can start to really build momentum toward your dream life if you just aren't so far-sighted and are losing what's right in front of you. It's like the story, what the hell is water?
Yeah.
Right? Two young fish are swimming along. An older fish swims by and says, "Good morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish look at each other and they say, "What the hell is water?" Sometimes we're so close to something we can't see what's right in front of us. So not only is there an opportunity for leadership, but if you lean into the leadership stuff that David's talking about, maybe you can stop self-sabotaging yourself and really get closer to the dream life, whatever that may be for you. Maybe it is as an executive at QSR. Maybe it is as a lawyer. Maybe it is as starting your own business and things like that. Because there's just so many different opportunities that you have every single day. 448 transactions worth in some cases, where you can develop those little micro steps to becoming a better leader. And I think way too many men especially, they miss that. They miss it.
And these are to me, these are things that you develop now. You start doing now. Mm-hmm. Whether you're flipping burgers, mm-hmm. whether you're making sandwiches on a line, whether you're, rolling burritos, mm-hmm. Whatever you're doing, these are things that you can develop now, not when I become an assistant manager, when I become a crew chief, when I become a franchisee. Mm-hmm. Start developing them now.
It's not a someday thing. It's a 2-day thing.
Exactly. And that's what is going to make you yourself stand out.
And there's a depth perception issue, like what you just said there. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to do this, but then someday, right, then I'll be doing that. You're going, it's backwards. It's backwards. If you do it now, then someday won't remain someday. It'll be the next day, relatively speaking, as it was for me. Like you had said there, the progression was quick, and in that time, I did some things that I thought wouldn't be done until I was out doing them, but not in QSR.
No, but act like who you want to be.
Yeah, you become, but in order to become the man, you have to be the man.
Exactly. Yeah.
What else you got?
They question the norm, but in a good way, not in a, this is stupid, why do we do it like this kind of thing. But, not to stir the pot, but to make things better.
Catering with Taco Bell.
Yeah. It's like, how can I make this better for the guest, for the team, for the business? And then if you do that, if you're constantly curious about how to make things better, you're going to be successful.
Can you give an example? I have one, but I wanted to hear yours.
Let me hear yours, and let me think about it.
First day, there was no doorbell. I said, "Where's the doorbell?" And it's the manager's office. The hell is it doing in the manager's office? So we put it up by the monitor that shows our speed time, so the drive-through, which is right behind the dining room. So when the front door opens, we know that somebody just walked in. Greet them.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
like little changes like that. Like, where the hell's the doorbell?
Right.
Right?
But yeah, little things, big things. Why is I'm trying to think of a specific policy or procedure that let's come back to that one.
Uniforms are always big for you.
Uniforms are huge. Uniforms are huge to me because it's the smallest thing that's asked of an employee. But it's also such a simple thing. It presents a great appearance to the guest. So why do I have to tuck my shirt in? Why do I have to wear this specific shirt? And that goes back to what we alluded to on the previous podcast about the clean airplane.
Yeah.
It's the appearance. We eat with our eyes. You said that. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Would I want this person making my sandwich? And that doesn't mean they got to be great looking or anything like that, because God knows I'm not.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But,
but Deion Sanders said it. You look good, you play good.
Exactly. If you
look good, you play good, you get paid good, you pay good, you eat good. That's good. So
whenever I would go into, whenever we took over a franchise, it's one of the first things that I stressed was appearance. So that's questioning the norm. I would say the next bullet point is people naturally open up to them. And that...
Why do you think that is?
Presence. They're present. That you can't buy that level of trust in an employee. I still, if the leader speaks honestly with them, they'll speak honestly with the leader. And
but honest means honest.
Honest means honest.
Honest means honest. That was one thing that one of the AM crew guys said to me. He said, "Your willingness to engage in conflict is refreshing."
Oh, yeah, honest.
So honest is honest. Like, hey, this is not right. We need to fix this. I'm not okay with the amount of X going on in these walls while I'm here. What are we doing to fix it?
Exactly.
Rather than just ignoring, because being a leader isn't always about being a leader isn't about being nice. Right? Nice and good are two different things.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Honest is honest.
Honest is honest.
And then when they can see that you're honest, then I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, they're feeling your authenticity, and then I think people are much more likely to open up to somebody that's authentic. There's a concept.
And the honesty has to be universal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's go back to the uniform thing. Hey, tuck that shirt in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honest. You know, this is why we do it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the rationale behind it. But by universal, you can't go into one store and say that, and then walk into, if you visit another location, if you're a traveling senior district manager,
Mm-hmm.
and then not say the same thing at the next location.
And it has to go both ways.
Exactly.
If an employee sees you with your shirt not tucked in.
Exactly. Because then they can speak honestly to you without fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your honesty is anger, then they're not going to be honest back to you.
Yeah.
Because they need to be able to speak honestly to you without fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and it comes from being present. You know, I always say that the ministry of presence,
Mm-hmm.
MBWA,
Mm-hmm.
managed by walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are.
Yeah, if they don't see you, that's a problem. If you're a name on an email, if you're a floating head on a Zoom call, and that's all you are, well, that's a problem.
Right.
Because people associate with people. And I think there's a huge reason why KFC had a lot of success when they humanized Colonel Sanders into somebody that we could all associate with, which is Rob Riggle.
Right.
Rob Riggle's funny.
Oh, yeah.
People like Rob
Oh,
Riggle.
yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that campaign was exactly for that reason. So because people associate with people, you got to be around, right? There's a reason why the saying exists. You lead from the front, right?
And that, but the MBWA, the managed by walking around. I'm the president of a large organization. I'm an executive. I have 400 franchises.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be in every franchise every day. That's true. But
yes.
You can still be present.
Yeah.
You can still be present with the person under you or two people under you.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're present, they bring your presence down with them.
And when you are there, when you are in the market, when you are in the store, you are actually listening
mm-hmm.
to that sandwich artist, to that order taker in the drive-thru. You're listening to them. You're not just somebody that is a cog in the big wheel that fills your pockets.
Right.
Right?
I'm listening to them, and we've had some great valid suggestions from employees that we could implement, chain-wide.
Do you know how the Dirty Baja Blast came to be?
No.
An employee saw it, or somebody had ordered it, just ordered it. So this takes it even a step further. The corporation was listening to the customer. Somebody had made a video about how they started putting creamer in their Baja Blast. TikTok, it went viral, and then Taco Bell said, "We're going to call that a Dirty Baja Blast." And now we serve.
Now you serve Dirty Baja Blast.
Yeah. Yep. So we have the vanilla creamer pump right next to the fountain, and we know how to make Dirty Baja Blast. And it comes back to your point as far as being present, but even taking it a step further as far as not even at the store level, but the customer level.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Listen.
Listen. Be present.
Be present.
Yeah.
And if you're present, people are going to trust you.
Yeah.
That's the whole honesty thing.
Mm-hmm.
People will naturally open up to you. I was at a location.
So how do you do that? I know, but I want them to know, like tactically. Okay, wait, we gotta be present. What the hell does that mean? I think part of it means me holding your eyes right now, looking at you.
Oh, sure.
Not looking at everybody else or pandering, not pandering, but looking at my phone or checking my watch. People think, we all know that. Do you though? But do you actually do it?
Yeah.
Right?
Silence your phone.
Yeah. silence the phone, turn it off, and just be totally. Here you go. We talked about this last time, I think. If you want to be the most interesting person in the room, be the most interested.
Right.
Totally enraptured by what's going on with you.
And, I mean, you've experienced, I'll walk into a store and say, hey, let's sit down and talk. I've done that how many times?
Yeah.
Let's just sit down and talk. And we're not necessarily talking about, hey, I looked at, your last week's numbers and you got to do better. These suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not necessarily talking about that. We're just talking.
Yeah.
I know the numbers weren't great last week, but I'm not going to sit there and I'm going to speak honestly to you, but I'm not going to say your numbers sucked last week. What are you going to do about it? Hey, what's going on in your store? What can we improve here? And they know that I am honest about it because they know if they give me a suggestion, I will seriously consider it.
Yeah, and a lot of leaders self-sabotage in that way by only seeing the numbers, and that's something that you and I have talked about before. Yeah, the numbers don't lie. Your speed with service after 5 last week was awful, but they don't tell the whole story.
Right.
Whereas if you're talking to somebody, then the reason why the numbers suck might come out without you even asking about it. And that is a byproduct of what you were saying, is just be present.
Just be present. I can, then that helps me find the impediments. Why did their numbers suck? Without walking in and saying, your numbers sucked. They're immediately going to climb up. Or they're going to make excuses.
And some leaders, again, self-sabotage big time by, I've heard franchisees and leaders, if that's what you want to call them, in this industry say, if the numbers aren't right, I can't even hear what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. That is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
That is so self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And let's just have an honest conversation, which I think, I'm going to skip a bullet point and go to that ties into this, is that leaders, true leaders, great leaders, have a strong emotional radar. You can't train empathy. So if they know, I am empathetic to whatever they tell me. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about the business. I mean, how many conversations have I had with you where 80%, 70% of it wasn't about the business.
Right.
But you remember the 30% that was about the business.
So how do you, if you can't train empathy, playing devil's advocate, then are we implying that in order to be a leader, and if it's fine if we are making this implication, are we implying that in order to be a leader, since you can't train empathy, that you have got to have seen some shit and you have got to have been humbled in some way? And then because that might be a deterrent, and that's fine, because if it was easy, everybody would be a leader. But was that what we're implying as far as like you got to be humble? Well, how do you be humble? Well, life has got to show up.
You own your mistakes. That's the next bullet point.
Okay.
They own their mistakes. Strong leaders don't point fingers.
We know a lot about blame culture.
Right. They take responsibility and they work the problem. That accountability spreads fast. And that builds respect.
Yeah.
I would much rather have someone come to me and say, David, I screwed up here. This is what happened. And this is what I did wrong. This is what I'm doing to do right. Instead of saying, going back to your number sucked last week, instead of saying to me, well, this person didn't do this and that person didn't do this, and I'm really trying to work with this person, but they're just not listening and they're not following policy and procedure. Own it.
Yeah.
You own it. You give praise to your team, and you take responsibility if you're a good leader. But the empathy thing, back to the empathy thing, we were taught, I was looking at this from how can I identify leaders? So these bullet points are written from that. Do I see them practicing empathy? With the customer, with the fellow team, with the manager. That's how I identify them.
Or am I outthinking the room on that? Because in an industry like this, with the employees, and I can say this because I was one, are the odds high that you have been through some things?
Oh, sure.
But then, how do you navigate that without dipping into the neighborhood that everybody seems to live in this day and age, which is victimhood?
Oh,
there's a lot of that.
Right. But if I see, you're in a store, you're in a location, company, culture, and someone's having an issue, and someone, even if it's the middle of dinner rush, hey, Hunter, what's going on? You good? Just that. I'm fine, whatever. That person that asked that question, to me, is showing empathy. They can tell Hunter's a little bit off today. David's a little off. 1 minute check-ins. I used to do those all the time. Call all of you. Hey, it's 1 minute phone call. How are things?
Yeah.
Not how's the store? How's the food cost? How's the labor? How's the waste? How's this? How are things? What's going on?
Yep.
It's a 1 minute phone call. Got 1 minute. And everybody knew that. But that is, to me, an emotional radar.
I'm still hung up on how you train empathy. If you can't train empathy, then how do you train empathy without being able to train it?
If you identify it, you lean into it.
Okay.
So
yes.
So if you identify it, so you're not training it, you're identifying it.
Yeah. B.F. Skinner said, "Good behavior ignored discontinues. Bad behavior ignored continues." So we're talking about behavior. So implicitly we are. If you identify what empathy is, you acknowledge it and you encourage it, you reward it on the spot right there. Yeah.
This is a story outside of Subway, outside of QSR. One of my daughters got some money. She was 5 years old or something like that, 4 years old. And she shared it with her sister. It was her money. She shared it with her sister. My father saw that. And the next day, he gave the daughter that shared with the sister a $100 bill. He said, this is for you. I saw what you did with your sister. That was phenomenal. And this money's for you. For you. He acknowledged her show of empathy and rewarded it.
Yeah.
That then, so you're not training it, you're leaning into it. Because I don't think you can train it.
Yeah.
You can't walk up to someone and say, you need to be more empathetic with your employees. Right?
Yeah.
You need to be more empathetic with your direct reports.
So you can't train it. You pay attention, and you pay attention.
You
so then
lean
when you see it, then maybe it can't be trained, but it can be identified and then developed.
Yeah, developed, acknowledged, rewarded, encouraged.
Yeah, maybe not developed, but encouraged. Yeah.
And I think empathy is important in a leader.
Oh, because where empathy flows, connection grows.
Exactly.
That's a line right from that book. Thank you very much.
Is it?
A line right.
I read
right
the book.
Yeah.
And I listened to the.
Well, the problem when you talk about accountability. This book alone is like a freaking compendium on so. Look at the size of that book. So talking about accountability and trying to be a leader. My next book that's coming out later this year is probably that thick because I realized after the fact, like this thing is huge. Yeah, anything that you possibly want to know ever about self-sabotage is in this book. But I also realized to myself, David, is that it's heavy. It's a heavy read, and I think I can communicate my message a lot more by, and this is going to sound laughable to you, by just telling a story.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I like telling stories.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the time, get the Audible. I think that's my first read of it was Audible.
Was the Audible?
Yeah. But yeah, you have to have empathy. You have to have strong emotional radar to be a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're leading people. There's a difference between leading and managing.
So then what does a leader do? What is a leader?
A leader is the person that sets the culture, sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they identify other leaders. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about numbers and money and that. All of these things, though, do have a direct bottom line effect.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, they have a direct bottom line effect. If I know as a crew chief or as a crew member or as a DM or an assistant DM, whatever, senior district manager, director of operations, that my report acknowledges that, all of those things, practices all of those things, I practice all of those things.
That's so funny you say that, because 2 weeks from Tuesday, I have a shift lead certification.
Oh, wow.
And somebody might be thinking, listening to this, like, wait a minute, I looked up your LinkedIn, and you're right now, you're a restaurant general manager, you were a senior district manager. Like, what do you mean you have a shift lead certification? That's like 2 rungs down the hierarchy from where you're currently at. What are you doing? Goes back to what you said. So everybody else sees me, the leader, taking a shift lead certification. But the reason why that's the company places such a premium on that particular certification is so that when I know it, and then I can recreate other shift leads,
Right.
then that have us rise up, and we can identify leaders and go from there. Right?
Yeah.
So it's counterintuitive. Wait a minute, your restaurant general manager coming like two rungs down for a shift lead certification. Like, nah, you're thinking, again, we're thinking about it all backwards. Like, right? Not this particular title, but what's the goal?
So
Right.
one of the things that I did, so when I first got into the industry, so I came in to an established company, right? And the first thing I did was, I don't want anyone to know what my title is. And I came in as a manager of a store. And I ran that store for 6 months. No one knew who I was. I was the manager of that store.
You were becoming empathetic during that time.
Yeah,
You were diverting praise
exactly.
during that time.
Yeah. But because of that and developing that empathy, I'm able to identify with the manager or with the senior district manager or the senior, whoever. I ran a store. I know what the issues are. But I also know, hey, let's talk this through. What was the word you used when we were talking on the phone this morning? We weren't brainstorming. We were thought something.
A thought experiment.
Yeah. So let's have a thought experiment about your store. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
They may come up with a solution that I didn't even think of. And then I'm going to lean into that solution.
Yeah.
The final bullet point that I think is really important for leaders is they feel responsible for the company's or their store's vibe.
Saying the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know when the morale is low in their store, and they act on it. They coach, they listen, they bring energy. You know, um, if you are not immediately addressing, if you are the problem or you have a negative culture in your company, you're not going to be successful.
And if you have a negative culture in your company, if you have a blame culture, if you have no accountability in your company, if you are pointing fingers and you're not doing anything about it, you are silently endorsing it.
Mm-hmm. I was at a
sometimes not so silently.
Yeah, sometimes not so silently.
Yeah.
You know, I was at a franchisee conference. This was a few years ago. We had a round table. It was a round table conference. So, group of franchisees, group of franchisees, group of franchisees. I sat at the table and, just doing a little work. We were getting ready for the conference. So everybody's just talking, introducing ourselves and that. And then almost immediately, while I'm sitting at this table, they started just cutting down their people. Not by name, but by, I got this jackass that works for me. Oh, I have one of those, and then, oh, I hate this person. And, I'm so sick and tired of these,
minimum wage employees who think they're rocket scientists.
Right.
I heard that come out of a franchisee when you and I were sitting at the table one day.
So, yeah. I mean, and I was sitting there, I wasn't participating, and I got genuinely upset, thinking, what kind of culture are you creating if all you're doing amongst yourselves as leaders is cutting down your people? I stood up and went to another table.
Mm-hmm.
I just walked away because I wasn't going to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
If we all have bad employees.
Mm-hmm.
But I came here wanting to hear your successes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily come here to hear you cut down your people. I can say that at that table, none of those people are in the industry anymore.
Right.
None of them.
Nor should they be. And it's interesting. If that's what's happening at the leadership level, then how can we expect people to realize that they're in a really good vehicle now, whether it's as a senior DM or a sandwich artist or a crew member, that can get them to their dreams?
Right.
And I'll say that from now until the day I die, because I did it. And that's, my wife always hates when I say this. What? That's clinical, not conceited. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. But if it's not happening at the leadership level, then how do you expect your people to realize, hey, this is a real job. You are making real money. You can lean into your strengths. There's a place for you in this industry, no matter what your pursuit or passion is. I guarantee you don't. If you want to be the next Frank Sinatra, if you want to be a professional athlete, you don't have to be a starving artist.
Right.
I mean, you're in the food industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're starving.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Yep.
Okay.
I had to. I got dad jokes coming out of my ears now.
But treat it like a profession. Treat it like it's not just a job. It is, it may be one rung on your ladder, and your ladder may end up at the top, be owning your own franchise.
Yeah.
But your ladder may also end up at the top of being, a lawyer.
Yeah. I mean, because
the experiences that you will learn, are lifetime.
The honest work, the interactions with people, so you can develop your speaking abilities, because, I don't know if you know this or not, but being able to speak is pretty important. It's like, which I think is what a leader might do. One of the facets of a leader. A leader is able to bring an articulation to the imagination of the population. They're able to they're able to speak your dreams into life where you are at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you lean into 448 customer interactions every single day, Well, there's 448 opportunities for you to sharpen your speaking skills rather than seeing the customers as something to complain about.
484 impressions you're going to make.
Yeah.
And going back to last week's brand ambassadorship, 484 opportunities to develop a brand ambassador.
Yeah. 448 opportunities to talk about a book signing that you might have coming up. Hey, thanks for coming in today. You coming to the book signing?
Right.
Jack, good to see you again. Thanks for coming in. You coming to the book signing? What book signing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
we think so big, we miss out again. Me coming from Ed from the artist standpoint, the creative, you miss that you have a swath of your market right in front of you. In Grand Rapids, there's 200,000 people. You just had 500 people walk through your restaurant. You're not taking the chance to develop a relationship with them. That hey, they might be not only your customer when they're in those four walls, but also when they're
outside of the four
outside
walls.
of their four walls. Like,
right,
guys, I'm ashamed that it took me so long to figure that out. It took me like you and I were talking about this morning at 5 a.m. It's like, oh yeah, wow, actually this is it. This is the hedgehog. That you have something to be the potential to be the best in the world at.
Yeah. How many impressions or contacts are you making?
Yeah.
Right. And those pay dividends to the franchisee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you just, I'm going to speak a lot about speaking, but if you just know how to talk, the world is literally your oyster. The leaders know how to talk.
As a franchisee, obviously we're in business to make money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So all of these things that I am saying have a direct correlation to your bottom line. Is it quantifiable? It's quantifiable in the point that the roundtable story I gave you, none of those people are in the industry anymore.
Yeah.
Is it quantifiable by, if I am empathetic, I will increase my sales by X percent and I will reduce my food costs by X percent? I don't know if I can put a number to that, but I can tell you it will impact it. It will impact your sales if you're empathetic. Your sales will go up. If you lead that way, your employees service your customers that way.
Yeah. Because you will
have less negative Google reviews.
You'll stop sabotaging yourself, and your employees will stop self-sabotaging as well, because they'll realize that this vehicle actually is something that can get them to where they want to go, whether it's outside the industry or in it. Like, holy crap, if I just give a damn about the people coming through this door, multiply that, compound that, make those little relationship deposits every day, start building that relationship equity with the customer, with your staff.
As in operations, we spend a lot of time watching what really drives success, right? And to me, it's not just about numbers and checklists. It's not just about KPIs. And I'm not diminishing any of those. Every single one of those are important. Analytics, having measurable goals, quantifiable goals are extremely important. But to me, the best leaders are the ones that are influencing culture, energy, trust in the store, in the company, shift by shift. And those definitely pay benefits.
So if you were to leave somebody with the listeners with something someday, and okay, what is one thing I can take away from this to make sure that I'm not self-sabotaging so I can be a better leader?
Take these bullet points, and we talked last week a lot about acting. Or was that the first week?
I don't know.
We talked a lot about acting. Act to these until they become you.
Yeah.
And you will become a good leader.
Mm-hmm. I would say leadership isn't a title; it's a task. It's something.
I think I said that. I think I said that. That
Yeah, it's not a title; it's a task.
their
It's
pride comes from team wins, not titles.
Yeah, it's something you do every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's something you do every day, and then that's what.
But it becomes you.
Mm-hmm.
This is me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not what you're saying. It's not
clinical. It's clinical, not conceited.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I'm uncomfortable with the spotlight. It's about you. It's about my people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get really excited by my people's growth.
Mm-hmm.
Really, maybe too excited sometimes, but
Yeah.
I get really excited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm empathetic, maybe sometimes to a fault, but I'm empathetic.
Yeah.
My people trust me. I trust them. I own my mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I am constantly thinking about the culture of the company. It's clinical, not conceited.
Those are all things that you do. Leadership isn't a title, it's a task. And if you think it's a title, then I think that you're self-sabotaging.
Right. Because you can have all of these and be a crew member.
Yeah. And if you think it's a title, then you have a greater likelihood to see yourself as a victim. Because my people aren't doing this. I got this pain in the ass who's not doing that.
Thoughts?
Like, share, subscribe. Give us topics to talk about. I try not to. We don't want to talk about things that you guys don't want to talk about. But so, like, share, subscribe, be a brand ambassador. And if you're in the QSR space right now, whether as a sandwich artist in the line, a crew member, or a senior district manager, a regional manager, just waiting for the day that you can get out of this thing so you can go do whatever it is that you want to do, write a best-selling book, go be a professional athlete, I would ask you to change your paradigm and ask yourself, maybe, am I in the right seat right now to get me where I want to go? And if the answer might surprise you.
Oh, sure.
So,
but do the thought
experiment.
And take these bullet points.
Yeah.
And put your name in there.
Alrighty.
Yeah, thanks.